All right.
Hi, and welcome to the Toledo Museum of Art's Art Minute. Today we're in Gallery 32, where we're going to take a look at a necklace designed by Louise Bourgeois, and it was designed in 1940 but not produced until the late 90s. Stephanie's going to show you around our gallery while I cover a couple of housekeeping items. First, since this is a live broadcast, feel free to send your comments or questions and we'll see if we can address them toward the end. And then I want to ask how many of you have participated in the hashtag 5 Women Artists campaign that was launched by the museum in Washington, D.C. on women in the arts. If you've not, I challenge you to do so because it may be a little more difficult than it may sound at first. And March is Women's History Month, so in our weekly art minutes, we're going to be covering women from our collection. And if you didn't do well in the campaign and naming 5 women artists, that's a reason for you to tune in for the future art minutes at the museum. So I'd like you to take a close look at this necklace, and it is silver, sterling silver, that has been forged, drilled, and designed by Louise Bourgeois. Then it was made in 1998 by a Frenchman, or a Spaniard, a young man, Bourgeois, and it was in a collaboration with Louise that they produced this. Like I said, I'm a volunteer docent, so I am not an art historian, but I just want to share with you some of the journey I went through in discovering Louise as I was doing my prep for this Periscope broadcast. I had not known much about her, so what I did discover is she had a 70-year career as an artist in New York. She was born in Paris in 1911 and married an art historian and moved to New York in 1938, where she lived the rest of her life. She was considered by her contemporaries to be very influential in the modern art movement, but she really did not gain broader fame until she was in her 70s when the Museum of Modern Art in New York held a retrospective of her work. Her inspiration or her themes for her work, I'd like to read a couple of quotes for you where she in 1990 described her work. She says that the subject of pain is the business that she's in. She also says my work is a very specific fight against specific fears, one at a time. It comes close to defining an understanding and accepting of fear. So much of her work is monumental sculpture. She started out as a multimedia artist, and even she didn't die until 2010. And as I mentioned, she had a 70-year career. Her career actually really took off in the 70s after the retrospective at MoMA. And her inspiration she's a woman just filled with angst.
Real quick, Terry, what's the artist's name again?
Louise Bourgeois.
Thanks.
And she uses her work to resolve or work through issues related to universal themes of fear, anxiety, identity, life, love, and horrors. So as you look at this, I want to tell you that during her lifetime, she lived through a number of wars. And in her lifetime, she lived through World War I, World War II, the Spanish Civil War, Russian Civil War and the Holocaust. And as I was doing some of the research, I read letters that she wrote to friends, and she's lived through all those wars, plus the AIDS epidemic, where she lost many friends in New York in the art community, and so she has a huge history of people just sort of disappearing. And this particular piece she designed as her reaction to the Spanish Civil War. And remember that she was living through a time that Picasso lived through, and if you think of Guernica, his monumental piece, this is somewhat of the same flavor because this is called the Shackle necklace, and she based it on garrots that were used that Franco used on his most despised enemies, where he had an executioner put a shackle around someone's neck that looked very similar to this and tightened it until they were asphyxiated. So if you look really closely at it, you can see that while it has some beautiful curves and organic shape to it, it has been made with sharp edges. And even up on the top, you can see where it's sort of rough. So I guess I'd ask, would you wear this? And now that you know a little bit more about her past, does that change your initial impression? If you look at this now, what would be the first 3 words that would come to mind? So thanks for coming for our Art Minute on March 15th, 2016, and tune in next week when we will focus on another woman artist from our collection. Thanks.